I want to start talking about creating entries because that's why you all are here. And this is where it gets fun. So there's a few things that you're going to want to have ready before you even start making your entries. You're going to want basic recording information. This is the release date, UPC, ISRC numbers. You want credited record label. You want the artist name, the album title, the song title, things like that. You're also going to want the names of credited individuals on the recording. You're going to want those producers, those engineers and mixers, those mastering engineers, featured artists, songwriters, all of those important people you are definitely going to have on hand while you're making your entries. And then your files. We're going to spend some time once we get there, but you're going to be asked to upload files of label copy, liner notes, at the very least. Every category is going to ask you for credits. Some categories, like song categories, will ask you for song lyrics. And then we get into other requirements based on the category, such as recording package. If you're entering there, you're going to need to provide us with a PDF of actual photos of the package. So we're going to let you know based on the category exactly what you need to provide for us. But having all those files kind of ready and organized are just going to make your life that much easier. And of course, links. You're going to want to have those DSPs up to be able to copy those links, have those ready for us. So let's go back and make some entries. So for the purposes of this webinar, I created some sample entries just to help speed things along. So right here, you're going to see this. If you had already completed this entry, Taylor Swift Folklore Album of the Year. So if you're starting, you want to make that entry, you're going to hit Create New Submission. For purposes of this, like I said, I'm going to edit the entry, but no matter if I hit Edit or if I hit Create New Submission, it's going to start me at the beginning of the entry process. So let's go ahead and click that. All right, here we go. First step of the entry process, of the actual entry. Package name. This is what you're going to call this specific entry. This is information we never see. Whatever you put in this field is only for you. It's for your to make things easier for you to organize whatever you need to do. But in this case, good rule of thumb is to call it the artist and the title. If you have any questions, you can hit this icon and it's going to show you, okay, this is what I should call albums, singles, videos, craft categories, or producers. So you can always reference that if you need a little help there. Now I know I want to enter this in album of the year, right? So I know I'm clicking the general field where it tells you record of the year, album of the year, song of the year. If I wanted to enter in pop album, I would click this. So whatever you click here is going to allow you those categories a little later on in the process. So for this one, general album of the year is where I want to enter. Now, scrolling down here, you're going to see some important information that you want to read. It's some of our common reasons for disqualifying entries, and a bit more information that you want to definitely look over. So for this page, I've entered that information. I am done. So scrolling to the right down, you'll see the continue button. You're going to hit that, and you'll go on to the next page. So this page is going to be that basic information. Actually, it's going to be the rights. Then we get into the basic information. So the Recording Academy rights, you're going to have to agree to for every entry. I highly suggest reading them. And once you do and agree, you hit the agree checkbox, and then you hit continue. And here's where we get that basic recording information. First and foremost, I just want to kind of tell you how this is laid out. Any field where you have to input text that's required is going to have a star next to it. You'll see recording date is required, yet the one below it, the ISNI, is not, completely optional. So let's go through each one briefly. So this is an album, but here are your choices. These are your 4 choices for any entry you're making. This is an album. Recording date, give us as much information as you can. The more information, the better. I'll say that, but month and year will suffice. Here's where you're going to select artist type: solo artist, established duo, group, and so on. She is a solo artist, so I select solo. I enter her name. The ISNI number is just that. It's an international standard name identifier. If you know about this and if you have that information, great, throw it in there. If you do not, keep going. It's completely optional. It's more, we're trying to collect as much data as we can. That's why that is there. Album title, there it is. Album release date, clicking on the calendar will give you a calendar field. You can select the date that way. The album view PC and ISRC to the right of that. All of these are required so far, except for the ISNI. Credited record label, distribution, where is this for sale, and then format. Now, if you've made entries with us in the past, you will know that selecting the format, there used to be the option to select physical formats like vinyl, CD, things like that. But this year, the Recording Academy is only accepting streaming links. So that's why you're going to see streaming there. Now, there's an asterisk to that. If you're making entries in certain craft categories like package, album notes, historical, you will definitely need to send us physical product. But for the vast majority of our categories this year, streaming links are what we're going to ask for. Now, if you scroll down, the last box, comments. This is an optional box. It's largely not necessary unless there are some circumstances or something really important to the entry that you need to let us know, the awards department. Like it's noted, no bios, no reviews. The voters aren't going to see any of that, and it has no bearing on your entry. And I am actually going to take a quick pause there. I'm seeing a lot of questions, which is awesome. And I'm going to throw it over to Ralph and Shelly.
Can music only be submitted within the year they're released? What about previous releases? So this is a little nuanced. So I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the eligibility. If a single or track is released on its own, it could be it could be submitted that year, that eligibility period. If it is not submitted the year that it's released, but it has been released the following eligibility period on an album as a track, it can be submitted the same year. And if the year after the album has been released, that single or track has not yet been submitted, you can actually enter it as a track from the album the next year.
I have one. Can GRAMMY U members make submissions? No, they cannot. You have to be a professional or voting member or a registered media company to make submissions.
I have here, what is the benefit of being a media company versus a regular member? In terms of entering, there is no difference. There's no difference between being a member enterer or a media company entering. The difference is mainly just how we categorize who entered and how we reach out to you. But there is no benefit or detriment to entering as either one.
Next one, can a voting member submit his own or her work? Yes, definitely. We would expect you to. Want to get the next one, Shelly?
Yeah. Someone has asked, is it always a 13-month window, or is it just this year? It is just this year. Our calendar year changes every year for very many reasons, COVID being one of them, the date of the telecast changing. So it is not always a 13-month window. That is a special circumstance, and we do not yet have the dates for next year's eligibility period, so keep an eye out for that.
Next one I have, can an artist become a member? What's the waiting process? Yes, definitely an artist can become a member. They definitely have to meet the requirements. We only approve applications once a year though, March 1st. So the deadline to become a member for the upcoming 64th Awards is late, but you can still apply right now and then be ready to and get your membership hopefully approved for the next awards, which would be the 65th. So if you're not a member right now, it's too late to be a member to submit entries. So your next best thing would be find somebody who is a member so they can make the entries for you.
All right, and I do have another question about FYC and outreach. And it is very smart to wait until the awards process has been completed right before the first ballot goes out to do any FYC, any campaigns, anything like that, because we do have a screening process and things might move categories. So you can always reach out to us and ask us where your entry has landed, if it's been moved. But we do recommend that you wait until after the entry period is closed, after all releases, after that September deadline, and after awards has finished all of their work processing.
Next one, my album releases on September 24th, which is just before the end of our eligibility period, which is past the second round entry access dates. How do I include the streaming links in my submission since it will be live past the entry access date? There is a website that you can go to provide us your links, but you still need to make the entry within the final round.
And I think with that, Ralph, let's kick it back to Michael.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much. I will be discussing the entry streaming update site, which is referring to giving us those September release links. We do have a separate site for that, and I will definitely explain that in a bit. And also regarding the FYC question, in the resources of this website, there is the voting solicitation, and that contains the FYC guidelines. I highly suggest giving those a good read as well. But here we go. So basic information is done. It's there. I want to hit continue. And on the next page, you're going to see all of our categories in numerical order, 1 through 86. We made it a little easier on the eyes, though. So it's all in order, but it's by field. So if you want to know what the rock categories are, you're going to click the field, the actual box. It's going to expand that out. And it's going to show you our 4 rock categories. Now, within that, if you want to know the definition of any category, you can click on this icon, and there's your definition. You can also print a full category definition guide from the resources, but you can also see them here. They're all the same. And if you scroll down a bit more, just to give you the full view, that's everything, all the way down to category 86, music film. So if I go back up, I know, like in this example, I want to enter an album of the year. And rightfully so, I can't select record of the year, song of the year, because of the information I filled out in the previous screen. If I were to put single in the format for the recording type in the previous screen, it would have allowed me to enter record of the year, song of the year. But because I chose album, I can only select album. And that's exactly how this site is designed. So I've chosen album of the year. I want to hit continue. And now we're going to get into a little more of the detailed information. So up top, you can see this is what you've entered so far. That should match everything you've had. And if you can always double check, but that's everything we've entered so far. Now, if you scroll down, album of the year, for this specific category, we require at least 1 producer, at least 1 engineer mixer, 1 mastering engineer, and 1 songwriter. You can see featured artist, no star, is optional. Now, if you're recording your album, in this case, only has 1 credited producer, 1 engineer mixer, then you're only going to fill out the 1 field. But in this case, this Taylor Swift album has 3 producers. So what I did is I had to use the add another button. Let's pretend this actually has 5 producers. So I've entered 3 so far. I want to add another and add another. Hitting that will give me 5 fields for 5 different producers. If I am mistaken and I say, oh no, it's 4. So you can just X out the 1, and now you have your 4. So, and diving into these fields a bit more, only the name is required. If you have an AKA, if there is an ISNI, or if you have an email address for this credited individual, of course, the more information you can give us, the better. But only the name is required at this point. So I've entered my 3 producers. I've entered my engineer and mixers, 3 of those. and then entered a mastering engineer, but say I need two mastering engineers. So let's do test. That's one. Now I have my two mastering engineers, two songwriters, and of course the featured artist, which is completely optional. So we'll leave that blank. And this, you can just check out, go down one more time. It all looks good. We can proceed to the next.